Hi, I'm Beth Norcross. I direct the Center for Spirituality and Nature. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about lightness and dark. It's the season, right? Christians are beginning their Advent celebrations. Jews are beginning to think about lighting Hanukkah candles. And all of us are anticipating the winter solstice, that time when light and dark are at a precipice. Well, in the non-human part of the natural world, and I would say the human part of the natural world too, darkness is really essential. Sometimes we'd rather not think about that, but in the animal world it's so necessary, and the plant world as well, for a time of rest and renewal and quiet and silence. There's darkness, of course, all around us this time of year, but I wanted to talk to you about one particular place where it's really quite dark right now, and that is under the ground. We don't think too much about this world that lives underneath us, but there's an awful lot going on down there in the darkness. I wondered if you would travel there with me. If you can imagine that you had special vision or special glasses or something where you could see in the darkness underneath the ground, what do you suppose that you might see down there? Well, I'm guessing that you'd see a lot of insects that were still buzzing and busy down there underneath the ground. You might find, if you dug farther, you might find a burrowing fox or a possum or a rabbit down there, resting, renewing, even perhaps moving into dormancy. You'd find all sorts of evidence of dead animals that have found their place resting underneath the ground. Total and utter darkness, and yet still movement and life and signs of life. But there's something else going on down there that we're not always aware of. If you look hard through those special glasses of yours, you might see a twinkling of lights. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, little tiny, dull lights. What that is, the larvae of fireflies. Most of you probably know that the fireflies are flitting around in the summer months, busily lighting, finding mates, and so forth. But after they do, they lay their eggs on the ground, and then they die to become part of the soil and part of this darkness. But they leave behind them these egg masses that find their way through rain and falling leaves underneath the ground. And in so doing, these little tiny lights from the firefly larva continue to light up all during the year, for a year or two, or maybe even 3 years, before they come back up, providing the only light in the midst of this underground darkness. I find the idea that there are fireflies down there providing little pieces of light very hopeful. In our literal darkness this time of year and our figurative darkness, whatever you might be going through individually, communally, politically, there's been a lot of darkness this year. And yet it gives me hope that there are little tiny twinkles of light all around if we take a moment to pay attention, if we take a moment to look out for them. So as you're walking around in the next few weeks or months, tread gently and know that underneath you in the darkness, there's light.